So you might have heard recently about some AAA games that were ported to iPad and iPhone. Games like Assassin's Creed Mirage, Resident Evil 4, and Resident Evil Village. You might have also read the story a couple days ago that those ports have bombed. But here's a few things you might not know about those ports. First of all, they're also ports to the Mac. It's actually really cool that porting a game to the iPad or iPhone gets you a port on the Mac, or at least extremely close to it. The underlying operating systems are extremely similar, so the work that you need to do, the kind of hardest work, is exactly the same. Add on that at Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference in the past couple years, they've introduced a new framework called the Game Porting Toolkit. And this year they introduced Game Porting Toolkit 2. And listen, I'm a big Mac guy. I use Mac for all of my personal stuff, all of my work. I use a Mac to make the videos on this YouTube channel, and I do a decent amount of Mac gaming. Yes, it exists. So seeing these games come to the platform has been really cool. And it's also allowed me to use apps like Whiskey to install PC games through the PC version of the Steam app onto my Mac. There were a couple other announcements at this year's WWDC. One was Ubisoft coming on stage and not quite saying, but almost saying that they were planning on bringing their kind of whole slate of games onto Mac and iPhone. And also, they showed off this list of games that are coming to the platform this year. Now, over on the Vergecast, they kind of took a dig at this list and said it was mostly 2017 and 2019 games. And honestly, I don't really see that. Sure, you've got Control here, which was 2019's Game of the Year for a lot of people, but you've also got games like the recent Riven remake and the new World of Warcraft expansion and Pal World from last year. There's a decent amount of recent games, including this year's yet-to-be-released Assassin's Creed Shadows on this list. I think Apple does at least understand at this point that they can't be relying on pretty old games to convince people to play games on their machines. You might not even know that Baldur's Gate 3 is available on the Mac. That's where I've played a decent amount of it. The chipsets on these machines are fully capable of playing games. Now, you're not going to get 4090 performance, but in a lot of cases, you will get ray tracing if the developer optimized for it. The hardware's there, it just needs developers to support it. I'm personally pretty excited about gaming on the Mac right now. I've gotten to do a lot more of it lately than I've been able to in the past. But there's one giant flaw with all of this really positive momentum: the Mac App Store. I know. Matt is mad about the App Store again. It's kind of a theme on this channel. A lot of these either one-off or more broad deals that Apple's been making to get games onto the Mac seem to have a requirement that those games launch in the App Store. Now, on the iPhone and iPad, that's required. You can look at another video I've made to explain why I think that's stupid. But on the Mac, there's not really any technical reason why it has to be that way. It's purely a business thing. No one really uses the Mac App Store. And especially for games, I just want my games on Steam. For better or worse, that is where people purchase games. Sure, there's GOG and there's Epic and there's one-off downloads on websites, and I do have some of those, but the majority of my gaming, my PC gaming at least, happens through Steam. And did you know that Steam sells macOS games? I play a lot of games there. Here's the list of games that I've been playing recently. And I think that if Apple really wants Mac gaming to take off, they have to get these games on Steam. Apple needs to get out of their own way on this. But there's another part of this that really gets me about macOS gaming, and that's public perception. People are so convinced of the Mac not being a place to play games that they often don't even consider it as an option. I've seen this in YouTube comments. Hell, there was this Threads post yesterday where a commenter on somebody's video told somebody they shouldn't be talking about the Mac in a video about gaming. Now, this person's probably a child, but this is a common sentiment. And like I said, this is my Steam library, and this is my games in that library that can run on my Mac, because when I purchase a game on Steam, if it runs on Mac, I just get that version too. It's a smaller list, but there's some wild titles in here. And if I do install Whiskey on my Mac and install games through the PC client for Steam there, I open up a whole other world of video games. But one of the biggest reasons that games don't get made natively for the Mac, I believe, is that people don't buy them there. And I'll be honest, I really hate this reasoning. There's this video of this developer on YouTube Shorts, you probably know him, and at the end of that video he talks about how he does all this work that's kind of ridiculous, and then it's like 0.02% of their purchases. But here's the thing: if the games aren't there, people don't perceive the platform as a place where they want to play games, so they don't get bought, even for the games that are there. If the money's not there, then people don't make the games. In that respect, I admire Apple for putting some money and some effort behind the issues so you can solve that chicken and egg problem with the backing of one of the world's richest companies. So if you, like me, want the Mac to be a place where you can play games and get games on day one of release, then here's what we can do. We can buy and play the games that exist there. Steam will show you if a game has a Mac version. And also, if you want, you can buy the Mac App Store versions. I'm not going to tell you to do that. I have bought one of them. I bought Death Stranding. I played a little bit of it and put it down mostly because I wasn't sure the game was for me. The other thing you can do is reach out to developers and publishers and help, maybe even Apple if you know somebody, to try and get the games that you want to play on the Mac. Like I said, I'm really excited about gaming on the Mac right now. I've been playing 1000 Times Resist over again on my Mac via Whiskey. It's a really good time for games on the Mac, but it could always be better. Catch y'all next time.